One of my viewers recently suggested that I do a video about how your life is better without the narcissist, all the ways that your life will be worse with the narcissist in it. And I thought that was a really great suggestion, but as I was writing the outline, the subject kind of morphed into something a little different, which is what is going to be today's video, and that is why we need to hear these messages in the first place. Why do we miss people that hurt us? And I know that in some situations when we go no contact with abusive narcissists or toxic abusive people, sometimes it's really easy. Sometimes it's logical and we just feel better. It's a relief. There's not like this intense feeling of loss and grief. But sometimes there is. Sometimes there's an intense feeling of loss. There's enormous pain, and we really, really miss someone who harmed us, someone who was cruel to us. And it can be very difficult to process that and to move through it while resisting the urge to try to re-engage with this person that's caused us so much pain. So that's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. Why do we miss people that harm us? And we're going to really look at some specific reasons that some of us may do this. And hopefully, as we look closer at these reasons, we might find it easier to process these reasons and learn to let go of memories and people that ultimately will cause us great harm. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. Before I get into specific reasons that we may be struggling with how much we miss someone who was ultimately not good for us, I first just want to validate that this is a perfectly normal way to react to the loss of someone that meant something to us. I know for me, when I was processing the most difficult loss that I've gone through in my life, this was something that really held me up because I had a really black and white view of it. And I had a really hard time reconciling the fact that there were good parts of the relationship, or that the person I was with had good qualities, and that there were some good things about the relationship, even if ultimately as a whole the relationship was abusive and toxic and not good for me. That doesn't mean it was 100% terrible. So if you miss someone that harmed you, that was abusive or cruel, it doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. And it doesn't mean that if those feelings are valid, if you do miss some things that were good, that you should have stayed, that the relationship should have been worked on longer. A relationship can have good things about it, and a human being can have good qualities and ultimately have bad qualities, or qualities that are bad for you, that ultimately make it a good choice for you to leave that person behind or to leave that relationship behind, if that makes sense. And there's a couple different ways that we can look at this. Either we miss the relationship, or maybe we miss the person, or a combination of both. I know for me, there are people in my past, in my history, that I have zero fondness for. I have no positive feelings for them whatsoever. I never want to see them again. I have nothing good to say about them. I could name a few people I feel that way about. At the same time, I could name you a couple people from my past that I feel were very toxic, very cruel, exploitative, manipulative. But at the same time, there's still a piece of me that recognizes some good qualities they had and some feelings of fondness that I still feel for them, while at the same time acknowledging and recognizing with no confusion that this person was not good for me and that having them out of my life makes my life better. And I think this can also apply to people that are in relationships with toxic, narcissistic people, that maybe those relationships are somewhat manageable, like it's a family member or a friend of a friend or something, where you can keep that person emotionally at an arm's length. And there's nothing wrong with harboring some good feelings for that person, some feelings of fondness for that person, while also recognizing that this person is emotionally unavailable or shallow, not someone that you should trust with your secrets, but still recognizing that there are things about that person that you do like and that you care about that person on a certain level. Life's not black and white. Life's not binary. Narcissists look at it that way. A narcissist will look at you as 100% good or 100% bad. They will look at their relationship with you as either 100% good or 100% bad. We don't need to look at things that way. We can recognize that something has good traits and good qualities and still be able to recognize that as a whole, we have a right to cut that relationship or that person out of our life. And it really comes down to your personal boundaries. When someone crosses your boundary, when someone violates your personal boundaries, you can recognize that they did a really great favor for you a couple of years ago. They really helped you out with something. You can recognize that you love the way they make you laugh. You love their sense of humor. You can recognize that you have a really good time with them when you go on vacation with them or whatever. You can recognize that there are good things about them and that you've had some good experiences with them, but also recognizing that once they've crossed the boundary that you have set, a boundary that only you can decide, that you have the right to decide that as a whole, your life is better without this person in it. And you don't have to write the whole person off or paint them black in your mind in order to justify that. Now, I feel like what I've talked about so far are healthy feelings of fondness, healthy recognition of truly good traits and good times. But when we are intensely missing and grieving for somebody that abused us, I think this can move more into the area of a trauma bond, where these aren't just feelings of fondness. These aren't just recognitions of the good traits someone has. This is like intense grief, an intense feeling of loss that doesn't really make sense in context of the relationship. It's normal to feel a loss when you lose someone in your life, when you're no longer in contact with somebody that had an important role in your life. It's normal to miss that person. It's not normal to feel like your whole life is over and you will never be happy again and you can't function, like as if you've lost a limb. That's not normal. And that is the result of trauma bonding, which I think is probably what the listener that gave me the suggestion for the topic of this video has probably dealt with or is probably referring to. Because I think when you're trying to break a trauma bond and process the feelings of grief and loss that come with that, that's when it's really, really difficult to think logically. That's when the feelings of loss and grief can be very confusing, out of proportion, and not a reflection of the reality of how you actually feel about this person and what this person actually means for you. So that's what we're going to talk about now, is reasons that you might feel this intense loss and grief for somebody who was ultimately not good for you. The first reason you might really be longing for and grieving for somebody that you've cut out of your life is because you miss what you thought you had or what you were hoping to have. You are chasing whatever you felt like you had in the beginning of the relationship, or you're chasing whatever you felt like you were almost just about to gain from this relationship. And that's what you miss, is this feeling that you're almost there and the fantasy in your head of how wonderful things are going to be once you hit that mark, once you finally get it right and arrive in that place where you're receiving whatever fantasy you feel like you're just about to break through to. This is really typical of abusive narcissistic relationships, is feeling like you're almost there. It's almost worth it. All this pain, all this time, all this effort, you're just about to have a breakthrough. Things are getting better now. You're almost there. And when you suddenly cut that relationship off and it's over, it's really hard to adjust to just a normal life that just is what it is, and to stop this constant hamster wheel of chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing something that you feel like you're almost about to catch, but that you are never, ever, ever actually going to catch. And so I think it's perfectly normal to feel an intense loss, because while you're in the relationship, you are longing for this thing that you feel like you're almost about to catch. But when you break that relationship off, it's like you have to accept that fantasy you had in your head, that life that you desperately longed for is gone forever. You're really never going to catch it. And you have to grieve for the loss of that. When you're in the relationship, although you're never really going to catch that fantasy that you want to live, there's this false hope, and that can keep you going. That can delay the process of grieving for whatever it is that you were hoping to gain in this relationship. Now, I think if we go deeper into the way that we miss someone because of what we thought we had or what we were hoping to gain, that underneath it, there's often a familiarity in the relationship, which is like a false comfort, or not a false comfort. I mean, it's a real feeling of comfort, but it's based on a misperception of what things are, and it's just based on familiarity. So if you have a history of relationships where your needs are never met, or if you grew up with your parents or primary caregivers never really meeting your needs, and this is just a familiar pattern to you, it just feels normal and comfortable to be in a relationship where you're almost there. You're almost about to get the affection, the attention, the approval that you've been craving. This is just familiar. It's comfortable. And anytime we have to cut off something that feels familiar and comfortable, it's uncomfortable. And especially when in that discomfort, we're trying to gain something that means so much to us. Of course, it's going to hurt to cut that off. But I think that if this is a pattern that you've fallen into in your life, in order to break free of that pattern, you have to let go of the cycle. You have to accept that the way that you're trying to get your needs met is not going to work for you. It's never worked for you, and it's not going to. In order to grow outside of the cycle, to learn new ways to function in relationships, to learn new ways that truly will get your needs met, that are truly healthy for you, you have to let go of the familiar. You have to let go of what's comfortable, and you have to acknowledge what is never going to work for you. And I think it's hard because your brain has been programmed to believe that the only way you're ever going to get your needs met is door number one, the only door you've ever known. And you can't give up. You have to keep trying. And it takes a lot of faith and a lot of strength and a lot of pain to walk through to say, no, I'm not going to chase that anymore over there. I'm going to learn a whole new way to get my needs met, and I'm going to let go of these dreams and these fantasies that I have. So of course that's going to hurt. It's going to be very painful. It's going to be really scary. And it's a whole new way of looking at things and operating, and who's there to help you? Who's there to guide you through it? You really have to find your own way, and hopefully with videos like mine and other creators or therapists or just anyone who is able to help you, hopefully you're able to find your way to a healthier way of functioning in relationships. But it's really ultimately up to you to break the cycle that you've been programmed to operate in and to find a better way to get your needs met. So of course, naturally, it's going to be really difficult, and you're going to feel an enormous sense of loss and grief. I also just want to mention another reason that you might really miss someone who was toxic, especially in a romantic relationship, and that would be the physical relationship you had with them, the physical intimacy, or maybe just physical affection. You know, maybe they gave really good hugs, and then of course physical intimacy can also be something really difficult to leave behind. It might feel like that part of the relationship was really, really, really good, when in reality, when you're in a romantic relationship, especially with a toxic narcissist, the physical aspects of the relationship are usually really the only way that you're able to connect with that person. There is no emotional intimacy or trust being built, and so the whole relationship kind of has to lean on the physical affection and the physical intimacy. And so I feel like the value of that gets exaggerated, and the quality of it gets exaggerated in your mind, and it might seem like that part of the relationship was just amazing, and you might really feel like it's an enormous loss to lose that, when in reality it's a lot of it is your mind playing tricks on you, and your mind really leaning on that part of the relationship because it's really all you had. You can find healthy relationships, romantic relationships, with people who you can have a good physical intimacy with them and emotional intimacy, and that's 1,000 times better than this unhealthy relationship where you're not getting any of your emotional needs met, and your brain is somehow trying to make up for it with the one piece that you do have. Another reason you might miss a toxic, abusive person is that that person was the person that comforted you after they hurt you. This is how trauma bonds are made. So this person hurt you, this person caused chaos, this person betrayed you, whatever it was, this person caused a lot of damage, but then they were also the one to reassure you, to accept you again, to forgive you, or whatever. They comforted you, they soothed the pain that they caused. And this back and forth can really program your mind over time to look to them as your source of comfort. And I don't think that when your brain is learning that this person is your source of comfort, I don't think your brain is able to comprehend in those moments of comfort that this is the source of your pain. It's just focusing on the fact that this person is making you feel better. And it's really an addiction cycle where this person is the one causing the problems, but then they become the only solution to those same problems. And when you lose this relationship, when you cut this person out of your life, now you're just stuck in these horrible feelings of loss and grief and hurt, and the memories of the hurt that they caused and the betrayal and probably the mean, horrible things they're doing to you while you're trying to separate from them. And the only way you know how to feel better is to go to them. They're your only source of comfort and relief. And now you have nothing. You have to start from scratch. You have to figure out how to feel better. And that takes a while. And so you just have to sit in this intense pain and find new ways to help yourself feel better. So of course you're going to miss this person that your brain thinks is your only source of comfort. But of course the only way to break this cycle of pain and relief is to get away from the person who's causing the pain. Now, another reason that you might really miss this person is the good times that you had with them. And I think that this can be a very complex topic. I really had a hard time thinking this through, because I think depending on the narcissist in particular, the relationship in particular, sometimes you truly did have some good experiences. Like I was saying in the beginning of the video, sometimes you really did have genuinely good times. And I thought this was really interesting when I looked back at experiences I've had in my life. When I look back to memories I had with people that I decided my life would be better without, when I look back on what I feel are genuinely good experiences, I at no point felt an intense loss. I look back on those memories even today with a feeling of fondness and like, oh, that was a really good time. That was a really good experience. I'm glad we did that. You know, I have positive feelings about these good experiences I had. But then I thought it was interesting when I had to break a trauma bond with someone. I was looking back at really superficial experiences that really don't seem to mean much. And I was like watching TV with this person. I remember feeling an intense loss and an intense feeling of I would give anything to be able to just sit and watch TV with this person again. And so I thought that was interesting that these truly really good memories and experiences I had with this other person, I looked back on with what I feel is an appropriate reflection to what they were. But when I looked back on the memories I had with someone I was trauma bonded with, I looked back on, you know, just watching TV with them as if that was the best experience I ever had in my whole life, and my whole life was over if I couldn't watch TV with them again. And I think that this is because when you're in a trauma bond with someone, when the relationship is extremely toxic and volatile and unpredictable and painful, and you have these moments like just sitting watching TV, those moments can seem so much more amazing than they really are, because they're not really moments of good experiences. There are moments of relief. There are moments where life doesn't suck for a few minutes or a couple hours. And so it's just like I was saying earlier about this person that causes you intense pain and then they're the only source of your comfort. Well, when you are living in a relationship with someone who is yelling at you all the time, who is very difficult to communicate with, who you're always nervous around, and then you have these moments where you're just sitting and watching TV and you don't have to interact with them and they're not being mean to you, that can seem like a really amazing experience. And your brain is actually going to long for that because it felt so good while you were doing it. But it only felt really good because it was a relief from what this person was making you feel most of the time otherwise. So I think it's important when you feel an intense longing to go back and re-experience the good times with an abusive narcissist or a toxic person to really stop and evaluate, were these experiences you had with them, were these truly good, positive experiences? Or did your brain just make them out to be way more amazing than they actually were because these were actually just moments of relief? And maybe you experienced both of these types of things, but I think that the experiences that you intensely long for and really, really miss might be more likely to be the latter. Not really that amazing of an experience, but seeming really amazing because these were moments of relief. These were the moments where things weren't terrible. And I think when specifically talking about watching TV with this person, these were moments where I could pretend that the relationship was whatever I thought it was because he wasn't saying anything. He was just watching TV. And I could sit there and pretend that things were fine. I could believe whatever I wanted because we weren't interacting with each other. And I think that was another part of why that felt like such a great time that I was having with this person, because I didn't have to interact with him when we were watching TV. And so when you look at it realistically in that way, losing the relationship gave me the opportunity to find someone who I could actually have good times with while I was interacting with them. Now, the last kind of loss that I want to talk about that can cause you to really miss someone is really everything that came with that person. The house you lived in together, the mutual friends you had. Maybe you had barbecues that you had, family trips, whatever it was, maybe you went to church together, or you had a hobby that you did together. The lifestyle you had, just depending on how engrossed you were with this person and how long you'd been together and how much your life has to change when you leave this person behind, these are all things that can be very difficult to let go of. And I think it's perfectly natural and normal to really miss, maybe your social network. Often when you end a relationship with a narcissist, they take all your friends with them because those people were never really your friends to begin with. They came with the narcissist and they will go with the narcissist. And that can really hurt when you thought that all of these, quote, flying monkeys were your friends, and you find out that they were never really your friends, that they were friendly with you because you were an accessory to a person that was serving some sort of emotional need for them. At the same time, I think that when you end a relationship with a toxic, abusive, exploitative, manipulative person, this can be the most true loss that you really have to get through and process. When you have to move, when you lose other friends, maybe you lose your job, maybe you have to, if you were going to church with them, you have to find a different church, a different gym, whatever, as painful as it might be to lose these things that you liked about the life that you had with the narcissist, I think it's important to recognize that these are not things usually that you can just restore if you were to take this person back or to go back to this person, especially with, quote, flying monkeys or people that the narcissist has talked to, people that you thought were your friends, but people that the narcissist has now gone around and lied to about you, told them their side of the story, told them sob stories. You can't go back. You can't just go back and have a barbecue with all of your old mutual friends after the narcissist has been telling them how crazy you are, and has been lying to them about all the horrible things that you've done. And this can go for a lot of the genuine, true losses that you have to accept when you leave this person behind. Maybe if you worked with them, you can't just go back to that job and have everything go back to the way it was. Maybe you can't just move back in with them and have everything go back to the way it was. Once you see the relationship for what it is, and you realize that your life is as a whole going to be better off without this person in it, a lot of these things you can't unsee, and you can't put things back the way they were, especially if you've actually left and you've actually taken steps to separate yourself from this person. You can't just go back to these things and have them be the way they were. And I mean, a lot of these things are real true losses, and it's perfectly natural to feel an intense loss, to feel grief, and to have to work through that. And I think it's important to recognize that many of these things are not things that you can get back, even if you took the narcissist back or went back to them. So the point I really want to make with this video is that it's valid for you to miss someone that hurt you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's normal. It would be abnormal if you didn't feel any feelings of loss for somebody that was an important part of your life. And processing these emotions, accepting them, working through them, walking through them is the only way to come out the other side and find what you're truly looking for, to heal from these losses and to rid yourself of the pain and the damage, the drama, the hurt, the danger that comes with living with this person, to see that your life is better off and that you can accept and process this grief and this loss and move through it. And there is an end to this pain, and there is a better life at the end of it once you've gone through. Going back and taking this person back is just walking backwards into this cycle that's never going to get you what you really want. The only way out of this pain is to walk through it. And I also want to say that if you're feeling intense pain and loss, that I want you to recognize that, as unpleasant as that is, to say the least, it's also a sign that you're not broken, The narcissist didn't break your spirit. They didn't take away your empathy. They didn't take away your ability to recognize the value of the human beings in your life. You value your relationships, even if the narcissist doesn't. And losing someone that meant something to you hurts, because that part of you isn't dead. That part of you isn't broken. You still have that empathy. You still have the ability to value people even when they hurt you. That's a part of your humanity that's really beautiful. And yes, it makes you vulnerable. And yes, it can cause you an enormous amount of pain, but it's also really an important part of who you are. And when you feel that pain and that intense loss, move through it, but recognize that it's a sign that the narcissist wasn't able to take that away from you. And the narcissist couldn't break the humanity that still resides within you. And you can use that humanity that the narcissist couldn't take away from you to heal yourself and to move on and grow in a better life with people who truly care about you. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.